As mentioned in the previous video, the opening video to this series, it is common today for people to think that science has shown or somehow proven Christianity to be simply superstition and fairy tales. Another common accusation leveled at Christians is that belief in God as a creator will somehow hinder scientific progress, or that believing in intelligent design is a science stopper. Well, this is exactly the opposite of reality. From the very first records we have, all the way up through today, when humanity does what we would call science, religion is either the reason for doing the science in the first place, or religion is used as an argument for a scientific conclusion. The majority of time, in fact, religion has been the reason and the driving force behind the study of nature. The earliest example of this is from over 3,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. The ancient Babylonians were known for their detailed observations of the night sky and their amazing mathematical predictions of the locations of the planets. This was the beginning of astronomy, and the Babylonian observations were used by other societies for thousands of years. Some think that ancient Greek astronomy would not have happened without the data from Babylon. So the ancient Babylonians did amazing science, but what was their reason? The motivation for their accurate observations and their amazing mathematical predictions was entirely religious. They wanted to predict the will of the gods and then order their lives around that will. Now, moving forward in time to around 300 BC, many ancient Greeks thought the motion in the heavens was due to the circular motion of divine beings. They assumed the heavens moved in perfect circles and were made up of some kind of unchanging matter. Now, perfect circles and unchanging matter were religious assumptions, not scientific conclusions. The two most famous Greek astronomers, Hipparchus and Ptolemy, based all their work on these assumptions, and their work formed the basis of astronomy for 2,000 years. Jumping ahead to the 10th century AD, we find Ibn al-Haytham, who is known as the father of modern optics and one of the founders of the modern scientific method. Not much is known about him, but we do know that he thought his scientific work was directly tied to his religion. Islamic philosophers thought they could learn more about Allah from studying nature. Science in the Arab world was based on religious beliefs. In the 17th century, we see the explosion of modern science with three of the greatest scientists of all time, who all did their science because of their Christian beliefs: Robert Boyle, Isaac Newton, and Johannes Kepler. Robert Boyle was a founding member of the Royal Society of London, which is the most prestigious scientific organization in the world. And Boyle is known as the father of modern chemistry. You might remember Boyle's law as describing the relationship between gas pressure and gas volume. He is also the main person responsible for shifting the study of nature from a mostly speculative activity to an experimental science. Boyle was also a deeply religious Christian and studied science because to him it demonstrated the existence, the wisdom, and the attributes of God. Boyle thought it was his duty as a Christian to do science. Isaac Newton, the person credited with unifying physics and the discoverer of the universal laws of gravitation, included this statement in his Principia: "This most beautiful system of sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. This being governs all things, not as the soul of the world, but as Lord over all, and on account of his dominion, he is wont to be called Lord God." Newton actively argued for God's continuous and active presence in the world, and he believed God performed miracles, but this didn't hinder or hold back his science at all. Johannes Kepler, who Carl Sagan argued for as the greatest scientist of all time, is the person responsible for our current understanding of how things like planets and satellites orbit. Kepler's reason to do science was to discover the mathematical rules that God had imposed on the world. Newton, Boyle, and Kepler all believed in a God who created and who sustains the universe. This did not hinder their science in any way, and in fact enhanced it. None of them saw any conflict between Christianity and science. In fact, they all believed the two to be inseparable and did their work because of their Christian beliefs. Religion, especially Christianity, has been the driving force for scientific study. In the 1860s, James Clerk Maxwell was responsible for the unification of electricity, magnetism, and light. Maxwell's equations formed the basis of study of electromagnetism. Maxwell was convinced that scientific investigation and the teachings of the Bible were not only compatible, but should be linked together. This obviously did not hinder or hold back his science. Well, this prayer was found among his notes. Now notice in the middle what he prays. He asks God to teach us to do science so that we can use it for our benefit and have it to strengthen our faith.